In 1870, a group of new families moved to the wind-ravaged plains near what would become Cherryvale, Kansas. They were spiritualists, a religion that was foreign to the homesteaders already in the new state, but locals tended to accept newcomers without asking too many questions. Two of the families moved away within a year, discouraged by the difficult conditions, and the others kept to themselves. But the Benders were different. At first, they appeared to be a normal family. John Bender Sr. and his troop settled near the Great Osage Trail, later known as the Santa Fe Trail, over which innumerable travelers passed on their way to the west. The older Bender, called Pa, made a claim for 160 acres in what is now Labette County. His son John, sometimes called Thomas, claimed a smaller parcel that adjoined Pa's land but never lived on or worked it. The Benders also included Ma and a daughter named Kate, who advertised herself as a spiritualist, medium, and healer. Ma and Pa reportedly mostly spoke German, although the younger Benders spoke fluent English. The group soon built a one-room home equipped with a canvas curtain that divided the space into two areas. The front was a public inn and store, and the family quarters were in the back. Travelers on the trail were welcome to refresh themselves with a meal, resupply their wagons with liquor, tobacco, horse feed, gunpowder, and food. Kate, who was reportedly attractive and outgoing, also drew customers to the inn with her supposed psychic and healing abilities. These men, who usually traveled alone, often spent the night. The trail was a dangerous place, and there were many reasons for travelers to go missing their way out west. Bandits, accidents, conflicts with Native Americans, and disease. But over the course of several years, more and more people went missing around the time they passed through Labette County. It usually took time for such disappearances to draw attention. Mail and news traveled slowly. But all that changed in March 1873, after a well-known physician from Independence, Kansas, named Dr. William York, seemingly disappeared after getting off the train at Cherryvale. Dr. York had two powerful brothers who were determined to find out what happened to him, Colonel Edward York and Kansas Senator Alexander York. The colonel led an investigation in Labette County. When questioned, the Benders denied all knowledge of York's disappearance, although Ma Bender flew into a violent passion, in the words of the weekly Kansas chief, when asked about a report of a woman who had been threatened with pistols and knives at their inn. Ma defended herself by claiming that the visitor had been a witch, and a bad and wicked woman whom she would kill if she ever came near them again. Around the same time, the township held a meeting at the Harmony Grove schoolhouse. Both male Benders were in attendance. The townsfolk decided to search every homestead for evidence of the missing, but the weather turned bad, and it was several days before a search could begin. Eventually, a neighbor noticed starving farm animals wandering the Bender property. When he investigated the inn, he found it empty. The Benders had fled. The volunteers who later arrived for the search noted that the Benders' wagon was gone. Little else had been taken from the home besides food and clothing. Though the house was empty, all else seemed normal, until someone opened a trap door in the floor. What they found beneath it was chilling. The trap door located behind the curtain in the Benders' private quarters led to a foul-smelling cellar, which was drenched with blood. Horrified, the group lifted up the cabin from its foundations and dug into the ground, yet found nothing. The investigation then turned to the garden, which was freshly plowed. Neighbors recalled the garden always seemed freshly plowed. Working through the night, the volunteers first unearthed York's body. The back of his head had been smashed and his throat slit. Soon, they found more bodies with similar injuries. Accounts differ about the number of bodies excavated from the site, but totals hover around a dozen. In all, the Benders may have committed as many as 21 murders. Their terrible work garnered the family only a few $1,000s and some livestock. Investigators later pieced together the group's modus operandi. It's believed that guests at the inn were urged to sit against the separating curtain, and while dining would be hit on the head with a hammer from behind the curtain. Their body was then dropped into the trapdoor to the cellar, where one of the Benders slit their unfortunate victim's throat before stripping the body of its valuables. One man, a Mr. Wetzel, heard this theory and remembered a time when he had been at the inn and declined to sit in the designated spot near the curtain. His decision had caused Ma Bender to become angry and abusive toward him, and when he saw the male Benders emerge from behind the cloth, he and his companion decided to leave. A traveler named William Pickering told almost an identical story. The crimes created a sensation in the newspapers, drawing journalists and curiosity seekers from all over the country. Altogether, the murders are without a parallel, read an account reprinted in the Chicago Tribune. The Minneapolis Star-Tribune reported over 3,000 people at the crime scene, more trains arriving. A book published in Philadelphia soon after the murders were discovered, The Five Fiends, or The Bender Hotel Horror in Kansas, described how large numbers of people arrived upon the scene who have heard of the diabolical acts, bloody murder, and robberies. Hardened men were moved to tears. The house in which the murders took place was disassembled and carried away piece by souvenir seekers. Senator York offered a $1,000 reward for the Benders, and the governor chipped in with another $2,000, but the reward was never claimed. In the years following the sensational crimes, several women were arrested as Ma or Kate, but none were positively identified. A number of vigilante groups claimed to have found the Benders and murdered them, but none brought back proof. The older Benders were allegedly seen on their way to St. Louis by way of Kansas City, and the younger Benders were supposedly seen heading to an outlaw colony on the border of Texas and New Mexico, but no one knows what ultimately became of them. Today, nothing remains to indicate the exact location where the Bender house stood, although there is a historical marker at a nearby rest area. Though rumors still surround the case, some say Ma murdered Pa over stolen property soon after they fled, others that Pa committed suicide in Lake Michigan in 1884. After 140 years, we'll probably never know what really happened to the Bloody Benders. Thanks for watching.